Welcome to Ripple Effect Connection. I'm your host, Christy Hugick. Years ago, when I started to make safer swaps in my life, I had this thought. With everything we're exposed to, through air, water, and food, chemicals on our skin, makeup on our faces, plastics and toxins in our body, it's all overwhelming to know where to begin. But what if I could help people cut through that overwhelm and make taking action easier? That's how the Fall Clean Sweep was born. For the last 4 years, I've been sharing these safer swap tips, both online and in person. This year, I'm featuring them on Instagram, through my newsletter, and now on this podcast. The idea is simple. Make one, just one, swap. One cleaner swap, one product, one habit at a time. Whether it's your makeup, the water you drink, or the cookware you use, these small changes add up. On today's episode, I'm joined by two incredible guests who are experts in this area. First, we have Debbie Marlowe, a regular on this podcast and a health coach with over 30 years of experience in the health and wellness field. She'll share her expert tips on easy transitions for cleaner living. I'd also like to introduce you to Laura Walsh, known as Clean Beauty Mama on Instagram. Laura's background as a journalist and educator on environmental health, plus her decade-long leadership with Beautycounter, has made her a powerful voice for the cleaner living movement. Now a brand partner with Shackley and a mom to 3 boys, she'll walk us through her swaps for skincare, makeup, sunscreen, and more through the eyes of a busy parent. Today, we'll dive into how to make cleaner swaps across all areas of life, from water and cookware to cleaning solutions and plastics. Enjoy the episode and don't forget to let us know which swap you made during this year's Fall Clean Sweep. So for this episode, I'm bringing in the horses. I'm bringing in a couple of my really good friends and people who have also done this. They have made cleaner swaps. They have swapped things out in their life, and they're here to help you to make it more simple. So Debbie and Laura, welcome to the podcast. Laura, I know it's your first time, so welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Let's start simple. I'll start with you, Laura. Do you remember the first time it came to your attention that you maybe wanted to make a cleaner swap, and what kind of got and grabbed your attention that first time?
Yes. So I'm the mom to 3 boys, and I always thought, and I actually grew up, my mom was a crunchy mom, so she was ahead of her time in many ways. However, her idea, things have evolved so much over the past many decades. I grew up on a lot of low-fat things, but she still knew about a lot of safer swaps. And so I think I was, preconditioned to be aware. But for me, the big aha was in personal care products because I knew about food and I knew about some other things, but I didn't understand the lack of regulation on personal care product labels. And it was when I was pregnant with my second child that I learned that even the bubble bath that they would use in hospitals for those newborn, fresh, precious little thin-skinned infants actually had ingredients back then that was linked to a lot of not good health issues. And so when I learned that, I was absolutely shocked. In my past life, I was a journalist, so I very much felt like, wow, if I don't know this, most people don't know this. And since then, it started a passion. I happened to be watching TV that day. I was almost 9 months pregnant, and I happened to see Greg Renfrew, the founder and CEO of Beautycounter, on the Today Show, and she's a pioneer in the clean beauty movement. And it was this wake-up call around reading labels and how, back then, only 11 ingredients were banned in personal care products versus 1,800 in Europe. And I was just like, how is this reality? So then I went home. I started researching every single thing I had. I was a Sephora VIB at the time because I had been a news reporter in my past life, and I love makeup. I was a product junkie, and I still am. And I threw almost everything I had in the trash. And I know that's extreme for some people, but when you are super pregnant, you do not want to do anything that is going to be harmful to yourself or your family. And it all went into the trash. I mean, big names you've heard of: Laura Mercier, Nair's, Clinique, Makeup Forever, high-end beauty brands, and then of course the drugstores, short store stuff, the Neutrogena, my husband's Kiehl's. He's like, what happened to my shaving cream? Sorry, can't use that anymore. And one of the first things I was looking out for, because I didn't know a lot, was I was looking for the word fragrance. And that was an easy way for me to just say, if they're not telling me what's in this product, because fragrance means trade secrets, that they do not have to disclose the ingredients, and it could be dozens of ingredients they're not sharing with us, that's when I was able to say, okay, if I can't know every ingredient that I'm putting on my body, then this is not safe for me and my family. But I will say this, I had even asked my doctors, I had asked my OBGYN, hey, I'm using XYZ skincare product. Is it cool for pregnancy? And she said, oh, well, what does the label say? Oh, well, there's no warning. She's like, oh, I'm sure it's fine then, right? It's like, no, that's just not reality, and it still isn't reality now, 9 years later. So that was my big aha. And from skincare, that was an easy swap to make. Then it led to other things in our home.
Yeah, and I think you make great points, and I think Debbie will touch on this too. But we have to take matters into our own hands. That's where we're at, because there's so much misinformation out there. You have to find sources that you trust, and you have to do the homework. I mean, there are so many horror stories. Debbie and I have talked about doing a medical gaslighting episode for a long time. And I hear it from patients all the time at our clinic. And when they come to us, they're just shocked that someone's giving them this information because they've never been given this information before. And so what we want to do is help you be empowered. So Debbie, can you talk about that too? And kind of what you've gone through with this when you got into the making cleaner swaps? And I know yours kind of starts with food.
Mine started with food. Let me just preface this for all the lazy people out there. I knew I needed to make personal care product switches, but I was super intimidated. So if you're one of those people that are intimidated, I'm with you. You pick up some food and you look at the label, and it's it might say sugar, or it might say corn syrup, or hydrogenated corn oil, or whatever. Those are things that I understood. I was like, oh, okay, I don't want this. Several times I started to go into my personal care products and do it. And you look at the label on your shampoo. There is not one word in there that does not look like it's Latin. You know what I mean? So several times I would be like, okay, well, let me go see what's in my shampoo. And I would start reading, and I'm like, I don't want to Google all these things. And I would just get overwhelmed, and I would put it down. What finally, I had the food down pat. I had that all handled, and I was like, okay, I really have to do this now, because for my thyroid, I knew I needed to get rid of fluoride in my toothpaste. So I started with toothpaste, and I started with deodorant, because I thought those are two things that happen, toothpaste a couple times a day, deodorant daily. So I started there. I actually got my first toothpaste from Beauty Counter. It was called David's, and they carried it for a little while. And I did that. And just so you know, TJ Maxx has a great selection of non-fluoride toothpaste, so you can start there. Shout out to TJ Maxx, always. So I started there, and then I started with deodorant. I made my own for a little while, and then I've, lots of different brands currently using Shackley. But deodorant is one of those things you've really got to try. What works for one person doesn't work for another. But once I finally found a couple of companies that I knew I could trust, that made it so much easier, because I was like, they have already vetted this for me, so I know that I can trust this company to do the right thing by me. And we're all Beauty Counter and Shackley folks here, so that started with Beauty Counter for me. And then there's, several other, there's a lot more companies out there now, and Laura can attest to this, being in it 9 years. Even in just the last 5 years, the growth of clean personal care products has been amazing. And it's kind of mainstream now. It's still 10 years behind where it should be, but it's definitely more mainstream. So just start with one or two things, and those will lead you to other things. So when I did finally find a shampoo that I liked, and with our algorithms, once you start searching for clean things, guess what ads you're going to get? You're going to get ads for all different companies. You still have to do your due diligence, but once you kind of go down that rabbit hole, the rabbit hole finds you. So it makes it much easier. So don't be scared. It's okay to be scared, but don't be scared.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first step is also checking out what you are currently using. Like use the EWG app. That's what I did. I just started scanning things and then I went, what? Like, no. Like, and I think I was like you guys. I started with deodorant actually, even before the food. And I would also base it on, like, understand that fluoride has dental positives to it, but, and there is always a but, it is not meant to be consumed in a high amount. It is, if your kids were having fluoride, it's supposed to be a pea-sized amount. So imagine if you're brushing your teeth multiple times a day, and now you've got fluoride in the water and in the water everywhere. And so that's an accumulation of something that's not good. So when people are like, well, you need fluoride, and the dentist is like, well, you need fluoride for dental care, right? But you don't need the fluoride at the levels you're getting. So I think, Laura, you would say the same too, because we've all done this here on this call. Having a company that can do the work for you that you trust, to me, just makes it less exhausting. And when you know that, hey, if I'm going to buy a product from this company, I already know they've done their homework. I know that they care about what they're doing. I know they're doing testing. So talk about the comfort level there is with finding companies that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm passionate about educating about is greenwashing, which is that the big beauty industry knows that consumers have become incredibly savvy. So they are more and more intentionally marketing with things that will make us really think that this is a good choice. So a product may say phthalate free, paraben free, right? We know to look for these words now because they're everywhere, but then you actually look and you're like, wait a minute, what is this, right? So I think that using that EWG app, as you mentioned, has been a really big game changer. It's not perfect. Not everything comes up when you scan, but it can lead you to some great brands. That is how I found Beauty Counter. That is how I found Shackley personal care products, because when a company goes to the high level of going through the approval process with EWG to be verified, they're just going the extra mile. They're not just proving that they're formulating with clean products, but they're also demonstrating sourcing, because that really matters too, right? These are companies that have a formula, but where are they getting this ingredient from? And what is that supplier adding to it? Because guess what? That also doesn't have to be disclosed. I learned this a while ago from Lindsay Dahl, who's an incredible educator in the space. And she shared that, let's say you're a skincare company and you are sourcing aloe vera from a company, blah, blah, blah. That aloe vera can actually come pre-preserved with something that can be harmful to our bodies, and they don't have to disclose that either. So all that to say that trusting the ethics of your company is hugely important. And I have definitely vetted brands over the past many years, and currently loving Shackley. But you also mentioned toothpaste. So we've never used fluoride in our home. I have 3 boys. Their ages 5, 9, and 11. And we use an ingredient called hydroxyacetate, which is proven to really help with the prevention of cavities, and we have loved it. I only have one child that has had a cavity, and I know there's a lot of other things that affect that, family genetics, things like that, but it's working really well for us. I use it. I've used it for the past many years. I've stopped getting cavities ever since using it, and also my teeth have stopped being sensitive. There's a lot of things in traditional toothpaste that actually sensitize your teeth. One of the first ingredients that the FDA was able to ban was triclosan from toothpaste. So, anywho,
I
Sorry
want
for
that link, Laura.
No, don't be sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
Yeah,
be sorry.
I want
That's
that link.
perfect. Yeah. And that is what's in most of those ones that we have vetted. That's in what the one I use is. I've also used dental Sidon. Biosidin makes some really good like mouthwash and toothpaste products. And I'm not saying that I would use those on a day-to-day basis because you also have to be careful you don't strip your mouth of things it needs to, because I've done that too, where it's like, okay, and now I need a probiotic for my mouth to put the good guys back in because I've stripped so much. Your mouth has a microbiome, your gut has a microbiome. They affect each other. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Sometimes you don't exactly know. Sometimes it comes from the teeth. Sometimes it's coming from the gut. But all of this so important. So don't, never apologize. You interjected some great information here, and that's why you're here. That's why you're here today. I want to touch on too, Debbie. I want to go back to the food. We'll circle back to more personal products too, but I want to go back to the food because the food is a monster. And you talked about greenwashing, Laura. There are so many things that you can be fooled by on the front of a label. And Debbie, you know all about this, but what doesn't lie is the ingredients. And I'm the same way like Laura is. If I don't know what it is, I can't pronounce it. I don't know what it is. It says organic seasonings, natural flavors. We have patients on strict protocols, and we're telling them, look, unless we know what that is, we can't tell you that that's okay to have. And you can call a company and ask, and they will say it's proprietary information. So the company may or may not tell you what that is. So Debbie, just start to go down the rabbit hole of what's on the front of the label versus what's on the back of the label and how people can just weed through all that.
Well, much like Laura was saying about fragrance, natural flavors is pretty close to that in food. So, like, I love Element electrolytes. I was recommending it to a friend, and she said it has natural flavors. And I said, yes, but I vetted it. I messaged the company. I'm a stockholder in the company. And I called them. I'm like, what? I know you can't tell me what's in the natural flavors, but you know what I want to know. And they were like, you're good. It's just, I know they're a company that's trying to do the very best. So call the company, email the company, because they need to know that people want to know. That said, let's go to things like Skinny Pop popcorn. My mother grabbed it. I've probably told this story before. We're in Costco. She grabs Skinny Pop popcorn. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, well, this is good for you. And I'm like, why? And she's like, well, it says skinny on the front. Not saying my mom's an intelligent person, but they know who they're after. They know you'll notice everything's green now. Everything's, all the colors are green and whatnot because that shows up as healthy. They spend a lot of money doing all the research to see what people are going to grab. And there's a whole food science project out there just to make you buy more things. So it's very important. What I tell folks is turn it over. Don't even look at the front. Just turn it over. I typically, for my situation, I will look at under, it's got the calories and all that kind of stuff, and then it's got the ingredients, and under that now they have to put allergens. So I will typically flip it over and look at allergens and see if it says something on there that I don't want, because that's a quick thing. So if I'm gluten-free and I see it says wheat, I can go ahead and put it down because I don't need it. If everything looks okay, then go into the ingredients, and typically it's the first, hopefully it's not a highly processed situation where you've got 20 or 30 ingredients. Hopefully you're picking things that only have 4 or 5 ingredients. So obviously the first 3 ingredients are probably the most important. So that's just an easy way to do that. Mostly I would stick with meat and veggies, throw some fat on there. Life is good. Don't complicate it. Keep it simple. That's, the easiest way to do that. I do want to hop on to the EWG app. And I also know that, kind of circling back, because any conversation with Christy and I, we're circling around like a little drain. There's a couple other new apps. Is one called Yuka? Do you guys know?
Yep.
I think Yuka, and I know there's one or two more out there, which is great because for the longest time it was only EWG. So now we've got more apps out there, which tells you that people are learning. But I remember the first time I downloaded EWG and then I went into Walmart and I just started scanning things in EWG. I was just walking around. I was in there for like 2 hours because I was learning. I grabbed the Clairol Herbal Essence and scanned it. And, it's a 10, and that's not a good thing. While it's not something any of us want to do, we still need to vet our products. And at least now we have the technology to do that quickly and efficiently. So just go into and you don't have to do it all, but just go in and scan a couple, 2 or 3 things in your bathroom and go from there. And so for me, I started with food, then I went to personal care products, then I went to cleaning products, because that's another big one that we may or may not do on this podcast. But anything that has ingredients, you kind of want to check and see what they are. And that's just the way it goes.
One way to base it too is what are you consuming the most, or what are you putting on your skin the most? Like, start with that, right? Because if you're eating Oreos every day, you probably want to know what's in those Oreos, is my point. And I think ultra processed food, despite the fact that there's some ridiculous article talking about possibly I mean, if you want to see something send me into a tailspin, I nearly passed out when I saw that, because I've always told people, hey, look, if you can avoid as much as possible ultra processed foods, that's just such a help right there. And that's 5 or more ingredients for people who may not know. So Laura, I think this is a good point to bring you in because you're a mom. Okay. And some of these foods tend to be consumed by kids. And now we're at this phase of life where kids are coming out of the womb with evidence of being exposed to 212 toxic chemicals right out of the gate because we're exposed to it. It gets passed to the mother. God forbid, sometimes kids are born C-section. They don't have the microbiome to deal with these things either. So I guess I want to know from your perspective as a parent, how do you deal with this, with your kids, allowing them to be kids, but also keeping them safe?
So I think that teaching your children the why behind the way that you live is hugely important. So because I started in personal care products, my kids, if we go into a public bathroom, they'll be like, Mom, is this safe? Is this soap safe for me to use? And I'd be like, well, I don't know, right? There's no label on it. Probably not, right? But they have this great awareness. And then, of course, food is just a part of who I am as a parent, who we are as a family. And so we have awareness around healthy living, but also like what feels good in our bodies. So let's say, we are going to go to a birthday party and we're going to be exposed to things that we don't usually have inside our home. We may, if they choose to indulge, and there are certain things that are a no. For example, red dye is a no for our family. We do not do dyes. Because of the links to ADHD and some of the differences there, and I just don't see the need for them. There's plenty of substitutes that don't have them. For example, Trader Joe's, the entire store, unless this has changed, does not have artificial dyes. So that's a good tip for parents out there. If you are looking for ways that you can make your kids feel like other kids with colorful things, but without exposing them to dyes, that is a tip. They know it's just a no for us. And, but they also understand the why. And what I was saying is if we're at a birthday party and they try something new, I'm going to ask them, hey, how do you feel in your body? Did you notice any differences? Or, hey, I noticed that you're, it's been an hour and I noticed that you're really hungry. Like, do you think maybe we should have had something a little more substantial for our meal? I just try to be mindful in all of it because I definitely don't want them, feeling the extremes, because I don't think that would be healthy for them either. And just, creating awareness around, all right, what colors are on our plate today? What, all right, I feel like, this, we could round it out. What do we think we can find in the fridge? Getting kids involved in mealtime, I think, is really helpful. If they are involved, they tend to eat better. And then I also really control what I buy in our home. The kinds of more processed snacks that we have are organic. I try to look for less than 5 ingredients on a label. I also try to trust the brand, and I know the kind of things that agree with them. So for example, maybe the Simple Mills almond flour crackers. I don't know how you guys feel about those, but
Good.
those are something that we have found that fill the kids up because they have more protein in them than average crackers. And so it's really about finding a balance, but I want them to love food, and incredibly, they actually do love the food that I make for them. And some of their favorite things are the meals where I throw in a ton of vegetables in a yummy bone broth type stew. And they're just so happy. And it makes me feel good because I know inside this delicious meal, they're getting zucchini, they're getting beans, they're getting all these things that are fully nutritious. And also, Halloween is going to be here before we know it. That is something. I do have an allergy kid. I have someone, my oldest is allergic to dairy. It's not severe, but for all the kids, I get some swaps that I think are better for you without the food dyes, without the dairy, from companies I trust. And then I have those and we swap out what they get. People may have opinions on that, but that's what worked for our family. And the kids don't care. They don't care if they're giving up Twinkies and Snickers and getting something from XYZ better for you company. They don't care at all. They don't mind.
I love all that. And I think it concurs with what we see too with the clinic. Like we have a lot of busy parents and they're doing these protocols, right? And it's like, how am I going to do this? I can't cook meals for myself and for my kids. And the times they involve the kids in the cooking process. And who else said that, Debbie, was Autumn. Mm-hmm. Autumn Michaelis came on here, and for those of you who might not know Autumn, go back to season 1 and listen to that episode. She's a terrific resource. She basically has made a cookbook, and that cookbook has a lot of great recipes where you can swap out a few ingredients and make chicken tenders, and they're healthy. There's no gluten. It's more of a paleo Whole30-ish style. And she was emotional talking about the difference it made in her kids when they eliminated gluten. I mean, emotional about it. Emotional. So I would tell any parent that in concurrence with following Laura on social and also, looking at Autumn, look at Autumn's stuff, because she also finds easy ways for moms to be able to do this and handle this. And so I love all of your points, Laura. And I think it's just, even for whether it's for kids or us, we have to find the balance, because you can be neurotic about this, and that's not healthy either. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad tidings, but we can't eliminate everything that we're exposed to, because last I checked, we have to go outside and breathe air. So, or inside, where it's even worse sometimes, where we have to breathe air. So we can't eliminate everything, and that's why we're trying to give you ways, to do this. So let's go back to the personal products. Debbie, I want you to talk about the skincare switches and the amount of time that skincare is staying on you. So what you look for from a skincare standpoint. And then Laura, I'm going to have you talk about the sunscreen aspect.
First of all, whether it's food, whether it's personal care products, whether it's cleaning products, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Do the best you can with the knowledge that you have right now. And once you start diving into things, you'll learn more and more and more. And the more you learn, the more you'll do. Or the less you'll have to do, because now you know more. So skincare. Now, I want to watch Laura's face when I say this. I was the girl that put the makeup on in the morning, and I reapplied it sometime in the afternoon, and then I came home and I was exhausted and I fell into bed and never even washed my face. That girl. See? Do you see the lazy thing? I don't want to read the labels. I don't want to take the makeup off. I just don't. But that was me for a lot of years. Then I turned 40 and, things start looking a little rank, or mine did anyway. And so I was like, okay, it's really time for me to do this. So that was about the time. It was a little bit after I started focusing on food, focusing on movement, et cetera, et cetera. So then I started looking around for skincare, because now I had done the toothpaste, I had done the deodorant, and thankfully for me, I fell right into Beauty Counter, so that was an easy swap for me. I was already over 40, so I just went right to the Counter Time line, which is the anti-aging line. So that swap for me was pretty good, because I already had a company that I trusted. I already knew what was not in the products, and so I just bought the whole skincare line. And then they also had makeup. So that was also easy. And again, being kind of lazy, I trusted the company and I knew that they would do right by me no matter what I picked. That said, there's a lot of companies out there that have makeup. Makeup is a nice, easy switch for clean makeup. And skincare, there's a lot more skincare out there. And I honestly don't think, I know the marketing for women is it needs to be high end. There's a lot of companies out there that are affordable that still do a really nice job. And you just, have to do a little bit of research, or you ask me or Christy or Laura and we'll, give you some ideas. And there's plenty of people out there that don't want you to have to go through what they did. So those are fairly easy swaps, but again, you need to look for fragrance. For me, the harder thing was the shampoo and conditioner and all that kind of stuff. That was a little bit harder. But again, I found a couple good companies that I really, really liked, and that made it fairly easy. Now I have, for the last few years, have done the cleaning products. Christy turned me on to Force of Nature, which I love. I just got a huge cleaning kit from Shackley, which has been amazing. And, you just add water and off you go. So these things have been really pretty easy. And now I like it because I really have one company where I can do a whole lot of things. I don't have to order from 15 different companies and have 15 different subscriptions and whatnot. So I think it's just important to ask around, ask your friends. We all have that friend that's the hippie. And just start asking around and get some good referrals. If you make it fun, research can be fun.
Laura, if you want to expound on, touch on the skincare thing, because I don't want to leave you out of that conversation for sure. You can expound on that and then we can go into talking about sunscreen. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I love the Shackley Youth line. They have 19 different EWG verified products that I trust and use. They have an incredible body lotion, body wash, body serum, and I also love their mascara and their BB cream, which is an SPF 30. But Shackley, just like you mentioned, you can get cleaning products from them, but you can also get skincare and other things like that. And since Beauty Counter is temporarily closed, Shackley has become my go-to, and I have not honestly missed those products that I was using, and feel as though they really also back it up with science, which is important to me, because if I am paying for products, I want to know it's going to work. I have spent way too much money over the years on products that did not make my skin feel good or look any different. And I feel like that's where it's important to get good recommendations and try out some new things. But I don't think anyone listening could go wrong with the Shackley Youth skincare line.
I was mourning when when Beauty Counter said they were going on hiatus, and then I switched to Shackley for a couple of other things, and I'm really impressed with the youth line. I should I say this? Like, if Beauty Counter doesn't come back, it'll be okay. I hate to say that. I feel really bad about that, but from the skincare standpoint, it would be okay. I will miss a lot of the makeup if it doesn't come back, but from the skincare point, it'll be all right. But shh, don't tell anybody.
I actually have seen such great results with this youth line. I feel like it's just really helped my skin to be more calm, and I'm not sure if it's because they use less essential oils or something. Everyone's skin microbiome is so unique, but I just have been really happy with the skincare. And quite frankly, when Beauty Counter closed, I know all of us like, what are we going to do? So it's a relief to have found products that work so well. And, a lot of us are all saying like the skincare is amazing, but the BB cream, which is like a tinted moisturizer with sun protection, that's like, I'm forever going to use that product. And the same is true for their mascara, because Debbie, when you were saying you don't like to take off your makeup, I think one of the reasons that we were tired at the end of the day is because you had to do multiple steps. I want to wash my face and I want the mascara to come off. And this clean mascara is the only one where that's ever happened without significant scrubbing or a makeup remover. So to me, that's like worth its weight in gold. And then as far as Christy wanted me to talk about the sunscreen. Sunscreens, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Those are the only two safe sunscreen ingredients, and you'll see it right there under active ingredients. That's the great thing, because the FDA considers sunscreen to be a drug, so it's listed right there. What is the active? If you see homosalate, oxybenzone, any of these other considered chemical sunscreens, put it back. I mean, if you're stuck on a boat and you're going to get a sunburn, is it okay to use it once or twice? Of course. However, zinc oxide has been around for decades. It's an effective physical barrier, and it works so well. I've used Beauty Counter on my babies for a decade. However, now I'm using a brand called Babo Botanicals, and I really do like their products. Again, I always make sure that what I'm choosing is EWG verified, because sometimes you can have one product that is and one product that isn't. But that's been and I've tested a lot in the past 3 months, and that is the brand that I think comes the closest to Beauty Counter in terms of sunscreen.
Yeah, and I think it's like all of us, right? You have a panic when Beauty Counter shuts its doors because, holy cow, all of a sudden I got to do more work. And like I was on autopilot. I was like, all right, whatever they're right. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants, to restart and do all that. And so you can kind of see where we were having to go through what people might be going through that are trying to make their first swaps. That's how they feel. And the other part of it is, it's like there's a twofold thing going on here. Yes, there are more products cognizant of this doing a better job, but now there are so many products trying to rope you in with that. There's way more work and vetting to do. So I had someone say to me, and and this person is the sweetest human, and the company does some good things. And I don't want to say the name of the company because I don't want to disparage them, but they were just putting out a skincare line, and I asked about the EWG verification, and the person said, no, because it's this, and it's this much work, and it's this. But see, that matters to me, because to me, if you care about that, that should be what you're doing. That should be part of the process. You should be going through those steps to let people know that what you're doing is okay. So I think that stuff's really, really important. And again, the EWG is just an easy way to do this. Debbie, do you want to talk about, I know something else we had to do. Pans, cooking pans.
Oh, for God's sakes, I need to do that right now.
Sneaky source. I know you're looking into it, and I told you what to get, but we have used some other ones that were good. I just found a new one that I love.
We're not going to gatekeep here. I'm getting ready to move into a new house, and when we moved into the RV 4 years ago, we got rid of everything, and I had a bunch of Le Creuset, which are pans, which are cast iron with enamel or ceramic over them. And I love them, and I got rid of all of them. And now 4 years later, we're moving into this house, and I've got to buy everything. So I love my Le Creuset. I may go with that. Christy has recommended the Caraway. I'm looking into that. Honestly, I'm just kind of like, one of these days, I'm just going to go out and buy them. But I'm doing research on pans. And again, why we were so upset about Beauty Counter is there's attachments to these companies because they're doing the best for you, and it allows you to say, I see this logo on this, so I know it's good. Like, it's almost if like Siete went under, I would just cry, because where am I ever going to find quality like that, and that's a food product, but the same idea. So I get very invested in companies because if they're doing right by me, I want to do right by them. So pans, there's much like deodorant, aluminum is not a great idea. I've been looking at the stainless steel, but I know how hard stainless steel can be to clean sometimes if you maybe have a little, shall we say, attention deficit problem and maybe leave something on the stove too long. So there's lots of things to look into, and much like food and personal products, you're kind of looking for ingredients. So anything that you ingest, that you put on your skin, which is the largest organ that you have, that you breathe in, that you're around, you want to make sure that it's as good as you can get. So that's kind of where we're at. Sorry, I went off on the pan riff, but oh my God, I'm like, yeah, I got to do that too.
Well, it's Teflon. And like we would say with any product, you want it to work, right?
Yes.
You want it to work. And so Teflon is like a curse word, when it comes to this stuff. So you have to be careful what the non-stick is. You're like, oh, great, these pans are awesome. I don't have to clean them. But what is it? Is it Teflon? Because that's not good either. So that's what I liked about the Caraway ones was I've never seen...
They're beautiful.
I've never seen a non-stick quite like that. That was safer. And our place was good, but I think Caraway took it to another level. You do have to care for those pans properly, so I don't want to make it sound like this is just a foolproof thing. But I had something where the non-stick was kind of dissipating, and I was like, what's going on here? These pans are too expensive for this to happen. And they gave me a little trick. They gave me a trick to get it back. And it's just water, vinegar, and like a little bit of baking soda, and I had to cook it. Like boil it almost in the pan, and it brought the nonstick completely back. And they basically said it's just the nonstick. It gets like almost like your pores are getting clogged. The same type of idea. The pores, and the nonstick comes right back. So that's good. So I'll share that tip with people at some point. And then I think, Laura, the other thing that's big in this world, and when I had an envirotox test done on my body, and I saw the amount of BPA in my bloodstream, I went, what? Like I wasn't drinking out of plastic water bottles or anything like that at the time. And so plastics are a big deal. So what are you using, for your kids, like when they're taking lunch to school? Like, cause that's a big thing that maybe we don't really think about all that much, but maybe just a little adjustment that we can make.
Yeah. So, I brought a couple to show you. So
cool.
instead of Ziploc bags, we use these lunch skins. They're paper sandwich bags. They're coated in wax. They're great for like anything more dry, but these are a lifesaver. And then we use these stasher bags. They're silicone. So this is where I just pack their little apple snack every day. We also use stainless steel lunch containers. Yeah, I have a couple different ones that I've used. And then I pack them this non-dairy yogurt every day that we love. And I get this size, tiny mason jars that are glass. I don't care if it has a plastic lid, because it's not really hanging out, that's the only way I've seen the mason jar lids. But the glass is the most important piece there. So mason jars are safe and incredibly accessible. They're affordable. And I also love that that's sustainable too, because I'm not buying the single-use yogurt cups every single day. I'm just refilling it from a larger container for the kids. And then this isn't plastic, but we also send cloth napkins into school. It's just a little sustainability tip. Trying to think of what else in terms of lunch slots
water
that
bottles.
We do. Oh yeah, water bottles. We use stainless steel water bottles. I have a couple glass ones, but I prefer the stainless because they keep it nice and cold.
They do.
Yeah, and those are such simple things, right? And you don't have to do all these things at once. These are just things to keep in mind, especially like the episode will air prior to Black Friday. So if everyone's looking to make some kind of swap, Black Friday is a good time. I think the way I would like to also finish is to see if you guys, either of you, have anything left that you're still trying to swap out. Is there any swap that right now you haven't made that you would like to make? Debbie, I would start with you.
No, start with Laura because I'm thinking.
All right, I'll start with Laura.
All right, so the swap that I would like to make is I have had to start, it's a choice, but I've had to start treating my roots, okay? So I do use a hair dye that it meets EU standards, but I know hair dye by nature is just not good for us. And it's kind of like this thing where I'm justifying it because I really like the way my hair looks. But I'd love to find a really high performing hair dye that would work well.
I can understand that. I'm the same way. I like to change the color up of my hair a little bit. I just like the color to be a little bit lighter, especially in the summer. And I do that. And you know what? This brings us off into one other thing I'll make a statement about is that we're also talking to people who may be exposed to these things in the workplace, because guess who I see at the clinic as patients? Hairdressers, cleaning people, okay? See it all the time. These cleaning people are going into homes that have mold, and there's mold there, but they're also using these cleaning products every day. And sometimes they're not wearing a mask, and sometimes they're not putting gloves on their hands. So then it's going in the skin. So I want everyone to know that we're not just talking about, you know, your life at home. You were talking about your life in the workplace too. So if there is any, and it's hard because like you're working for certain companies and they're not necessarily going to pay for the other products, but maybe it's a conversation that you can have.
I have in our home, we have a cleaning crew come, and I have just, when we first started with them, they said, these are the products we'd like to use. And I said, okay, well, these are the products I'd like to use in my home. And they've worked amazingly well. We use the Scour Off paste from Shackley. We use the H2 cleanser for everything. Prior to that, another brand we used was Branch Basics. What's that other one that we use that's really affordable that's you can use for like porcelain? I'm trying to think of the name. It's a good scrubby.
I know what you're talking about. Send it. We'll put it in the notes so everyone has it. It's okay. You can put it in the notes so everyone has it.
And then there was one other thing that when you were talking about BPA and avoiding those exposures, it's really important not to microwave in plastic. And that's, I think people don't know, because I see people in my life, reheating things in plastic. I think that's one of the worst things that you can do in terms of, the BPA from that will then leach. So
great points. Great points.
The easiest thing you can do is you get some good paper plates and just do that. Because
or Pyrex.
Pyrex is better. Yeah.
The glass Pyrex would be the best, because even paper plates, you wonder what is in the coating sometimes. Obviously, paper is paper, but
if it's a brand new trust. But my husband, this was a while ago, we brought something home from a restaurant and it was in styrofoam and he's microwaving it. And I'm like, oh, he's like, what? I'm like, oh God.
You're like, that's going in the trash.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
Husband. No.
He's
very pretty. He'll tell you. He's very pretty.
He is.
So listen, when we remodeled our kitchen, our microwave we bought this house and we acquired a microwave and it had stopped working and we weren't going to replace it because we were waiting to do our kitchen. And so for a year or so, I lived without a microwave and I realized I don't need a microwave. I don't need it. We heat things up in our toaster oven or on the stove in stainless steel or glass, and it's working really well. So
great tips. What about you, Debbie? Did you figure out something you haven't swapped out that maybe you want to?
I didn't really. And then she started talking about hair dye, and here I sit with my little, my frosted.
Well, I think we've all done that, though. I think that's probably a spot we've all done it. Yeah.
And it's a valid point. I used to own a hair salon. And let me tell you, when 5 or 6 of those hairdressers were all, putting hair color in, and you'd walk in and I'd just be like, whoa, Lord, here we go. The fumes and their hairdressers are known for neurological issues, and I'm sure it's all the chemicals. When I owned the salon, I kind of did a deep dive on some of that, and it's not pretty, but not to freak people out, but. If you're in chemicals all day long, then definitely you want to mitigate that as much as you can. I just switched to I don't know what to call it, clean garbage can liners, and it's been a struggle because they're not great. But at the same time, especially where we live now, there's a little man that comes and gets all your garbage, and the garbage dump is not too far, so you can see all the plastic bags. And so I'm really trying to do that. I had I think it was Hold On garbage liners, so I've been using those right now. But they are I'll just say substandard to, your hefty bag, but at the same time, you have to make concessions. But yeah, I was doing that, and I don't know. I'm sure there's some other things, but right now, it's that. It's the garbage bags.
Yeah. I think for me it's the water. I still don't have the water thing dialed in because I think we need a whole home one. So I have a shower filter, which I just had to uproot for the bathroom reno. So I may have to get a new one, but I had a shower filter on from Berkey that I loved. And it was funny, the other day I was saying, why is my hair so wonky in this last couple of weeks? And I realized, oh, duh. It's because I'm using the shower in the guest bathroom, which doesn't have a filter on it. So I didn't even think about it. And I was like, oh, gosh, when the staining went away in my bathroom, when I had that. So we need to do the whole home filtration. Like right now I've got a Brita. It's not ideal. It's not everything I need. I'm thinking about getting a tabletop. Am I getting a tabletop Berkey next, or am I going 10 toes in and doing the whole home one? So that's an important one for me. And that is probably, gosh, guys, there's so much in the water, and EWG does have a way for you to search the water in your area. And I want you to know, when they show you those test results, those are only the things prior to it, well before it hits your home. So when it gets in your home, it gets worse. So if it's bad before, at the point that they're testing it, it's worse when it gets to your faucet. So, I do think the water is something to take seriously. So that's something I need to shore up on.
I did an interview with the owner, excuse me, of Good For Co., and it's a whole water situation. And now in the RV, I have a Berkey, and so we run all the water through that. Plus, in the RV, you've got filtration at the hose, et cetera, et cetera. But for the new house, I'm going to get, I think we're just going to get a whole system and just be done with it. Because, shower, what you drink, what you wash your hands with, what you wash your clothes with, what you cook with. And it's an investment. I mean, it's not inexpensive. So it is something, it's a commitment for sure. I may not do it right away because, building a house, you're just bleeding money, but it is definitely on the list. And she had some really good information. So remind me, and I'll get you that too, because she talked all about the testing and whatnot. And if you want to go down that rabbit hole, we have some answers for that.
That's probably even a separate one. That's probably a separate podcast. What did you have on that, Laura?
I learned so much from her, and that's a great reminder. We have an under the sink, and then we have some of the bathrooms, but it's just hard to know whether it's screening for enough. So I would like to get. I know there was it wasn't as expensive as a whole house, but there was a really good under the sink one that she had from Good For. So I'm going to research that as well.
Yeah.
Because she kind of gave this analogy, like if you're making pasta for your kids or whatever, think about what is being absorbed in that, right? Not just drinking. So
well, and the boiling doesn't take away everything. So some people I'm boiling the water for this.
Not.
It doesn't take away everything. And that's, I think, important to know too, is that so I've heard people say that, I'm boiling the water for this. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not going to necessarily take everything out. So all right, we've all made Pat. We're all talking water now. Laura, why don't you let the folks know where to follow you so that they can watch what you do, because you're always putting great information out there in the world, especially about the greenwashing and the products that may mislead you down the wrong path. So I think it would be beneficial for them to follow you. So let them know how to reach you.
Thanks, Christy. I'm at Clean Beauty Mama on Instagram currently, and I sent you a link where people can sign up for my newsletter as well. My goal for this month is to get much better on education through newsletters. So check it out.
Love it. And Debbie, you're a regular, but still let them know how to reach you in case they're all coming in for the first time.
I am mostly on Instagram, and I am at Motivate Me Love. And I have a website, motivateme.love, Love. And you can just hit up Christy. She'll find me.
That's right. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on. Megan and I are going to be doing an episode 2 that has some other things, because there's no way we could hit all this in one cleaner swap. So part of our fall clean sweep, there'll be a bonus episode for everyone the following week that will even have more, because
Okay.
there's no way the three of us could hit it all in one. So we're gonna do it in a series. So Megan and I will have more, but I thank you both for coming on. I really appreciate it, Laura, for you coming on for your first time too.
Thank you. This was so much fun and motivating. And we've got this, you guys, one swap at a time.
That's right. That's a wrap for this episode of Ripple Effect Connection. I hope we helped reduce the overwhelm, but also provoked you to take action. If you want to sign up for my newsletter, I will be providing a fall clean sweep guide for free that you can utilize as you slowly make these safer swaps in your life. Feel free to connect with me anytime on Instagram. I'm at Whole Health Christy, and you can follow a series of lives I'm doing on this topic. There will also be a bonus episode of this podcast next week for you on plastics and EMFs. You can also get the full show notes for this and all episodes on my website, christyhugic.com/podcast. Be sure to check out my new website featuring all my updated coaching offerings. Next, spread the inspiration, like, follow, review, and share this podcast with others who may benefit from this information. Stay tuned for the next episode of Ripple Effect Connection. Let's create waves of change together.
This podcast contains links and references to products and services that may include affiliates, sponsorships, or other business relationships in which guests and hosts of this podcast may receive compensation from referrals or sales actions. Christy Hugic and her guests only recommend products and services that they use, love, or will be helpful to you.